Well, hello there, class. Hope you are doing well. Here we are towards the end of the third week of class, and I wanted to kind of just share some thoughts on where we are so far, and explain a little bit about some of the my method behind a little bit of well, I guess silence, right? So in the class so far. So you've received a number of emails from me. You've had a couple of videos. You've had a couple of assignments so far. And you've received one response to what you wrote on your introductions for the first unit. And this week I'll talk about what we're expecting in the next rest of this unit here as we are in Unit 2. But I'm pretty intentional with how I facilitate things in this class. Some folks would look back and go, wait a second, why did you do it that way? Or you weren't as involved as I wanted you to be or I thought you would be. Or, even in the summer, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we are on Canvas, and Canvas is it's much more user-friendly than the previous LMS, Sakai, that we used. I really do think that this is an incredible help and assistance for the learning process for students at APU in the online environment. So I'm just so grateful that APU decided to go with Canvas. But you've noticed that I've not been super vocal in the class so far, and you'll see a marked difference throughout the rest of our semester. But here's one of the reasons that I do that, because there's probably a bit of an element, a bit of a reality that you looked at this and you said, I don't know what I'm doing. Why is this professor not saying anything to me? Or maybe you just haven't given much thought to it. And I think that I want to use those examples as how we view career development. So there are a lot of folks out there right now, currently, and historically there have been, and in the future there will be, that have felt that very same way. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea how to go about doing a resume. How do I interview? What theories? What kind of framework should I be thinking about? How do I do any of this? And they don't know where to go or who to talk to, and they feel like there's a bit of silence. And so a part of me wants to kind of help generate this reality within you of empathy, so you can understand it to an extent how potential clients that you might have a chance to work with are feeling as they come into this kind of just totally lost, totally unaware, totally, even in some ways, directionless, and sometimes feeling hopeless and wanting just to give up, or in a class like this, I want to drop the class, right? Then there's the other side where they don't even know what to ask, right? So you're here and you don't even know what you don't know because you've not probably studied a lot of this content beforehand. And again, that's the same reality. They don't know where to go. They don't know where to look. They don't know who to talk to. And so a lot of them are going to try and do things on their own. And we're going to get into that later on in the semester. We'll talk about online, assessment opportunities and telecounseling and kind of some of this information that's available to the masses but isn't actually interpreted. And I'll talk about why I think that's potentially pretty dangerous when it comes to someone's personal career development. And so maybe you have tried to kind of figure things out on your own and you're not still sure if it's correct. And I think that's the reality of how we view career development sometimes. We think we know, or we're not sure if we know, but we're going to just try and figure it out on our own. And we're still kind of questioning, is that right? Okay, so, and that's the thought that I want us to be thinking about within this class. I'm going to give you the information that you need to know in the moment, right? You're going to read the books and the content that you need to be aware of in the moment. The expectation for this class is not ever, and never has been, never will be, that you become experts in this field. But I will say that my hope is that while you're in this program, or I should say in this class, that you will be thinking about career on a regular, I think I maybe mentioned that, on a regular basis. The career development is always on your mind. You see things, you watch videos. In fact, later on, as I think I may have mentioned, you'll have this assignment where you have to actually share artifacts having to do with career development, the career counseling process, with the rest of us here in the class. And that's a great assignment. I find it very valuable because it helps you to kind of see things through the lens of career development. I should also say that in this class, while we're smaller and I have the opportunity to be more involved in the conversation, you won't see me doing, hour-long videos, right? You won't even see me doing 30-minute videos. You'll see me doing videos, maybe at the most 3, probably more like 2, sometimes just 1 per week, of about 15 minutes or less. And that's because you're not going to sit there and watch an hour-long video of me just droning on about career development. It's just not worth it, right? You have other things to do with your time. Nor am I going to spend an hour doing that video knowing that you in the back end are not going to watch the video, right? So 15 minutes is enough to get the information out to you that I think you need to get, and then move on, right? So, and I can't share everything in 15 minutes. So in some ways, what you're doing in this class is it's a self-learning process. It's a self-guided process. So you're reading, you're making, you're deducing from the reading, you're making, kind of assumptions on what you understand. And what I'm going to do then in this rest of our time together, the first week will be me sharing information as far as where we're headed. I think I mentioned that before. Where we headed? So we're looking in the front windshield of the car, right? That we're all driving in, and we'll look at where have we been. So we'll look in the rear view mirrors. We kind of say this is where we were last unit. These things came from this, and so forth. That's during the first week of the unit, typically early on in the unit. At the second week is when you will have just written your, in the relevant weeks, right, the corresponding weeks, your questions for the 2 part of the LipTAC response, right, the 3 takeaways, 2 questions, 1 actionable item. And in that second week of the unit, I will spend some time, again, no more than 15 minutes, responding to a number of questions that were asked in your assignments from the previous first week of that unit, okay? So this is where where we're headed. First week, video, kind of upcoming content, what do I expect of you? Second week, we'll talk about the questions that you asked. I'll make some additional comments if need be. If there's assignments that are due, I'll make sure that I do overviews of those assignments so that you're clear on what is expected of you and when. If anything changes, I'll probably do that just in an email, and I'll give you sporadic updates via email as well, okay? But again, I want you to remember that this is going to be kind of a self-led, although I'm facilitating, I'm directing you into the right different areas and giving you things to read and check out. But as far as the kind of self-reflection, that will be in many parts up to you, right? So, and I'll respond when necessary in the forums, to the case studies and so forth, and then to the questions that are asked in a video form. And by all means, although it's not required of you this term, if you feel that you want to engage with your classmates in conversation, please do so. I think it's only helpful. I think a peer-to-peer learning process is very valuable and beneficial to the overall learning that happens with students in this class, okay? And you will find, I hope, that this course content is not just, I think I may have mentioned this too, valuable to help prepare you for life as a career counselor or doing this work within the realm of marriage and family therapy, but it will also potentially be very helpful and beneficial for you on an individual basis, right? And so you will find that what you're learning is actually very helpful for you as you process through what is it that I want to do, or in your instance, what do you want to do for the rest of your career, or at least in this next stage of the career, okay? So that's kind of the process, it's kind of my thinking. I want to approach this from a very different perspective. I think in a lot of ways, like the video that hopefully you watched on the homepage of our class, the Backward Brain Bicycle. I want us to unlearn some ways that we've been learning and relearn some new ways. Okay. The other thing I'll mention, and I don't know if I said this before, I can't recall, is if you spend upwards of 3 hours a week in the class online, not the reading, but just the responding, the thinking, and so forth, just in the class content, 3 hours a week, that's totally to be expected. Because we have to remember that if you were in a face-to-face class, you would be sitting in seat for 3 hours for every single class, every single week. In the summer, it's different because it's half the time, but still the same amount of content. You would be potentially in the online format for 6 hours per week, okay? So here what I've done is I've stretched it out. So you may not be in the class for 3 hours every week, but you will be involved in your content for a while. Because there's lots to accomplish, right? And it's over a longer span of time, and so I hope that you will find that extra time that you have given the 2 weeks to discuss multiple chapters of content is actually very helpful. But bottom line is, if you are spending a lot of time in the online environment and writing lots of content and so forth, and it's taking hours every week, that's to be expected. I think there's this thought that online education is going to be easier and require less work, and that's simply not the case. Okay, so please make sure that you are kind of recalibrating your thinking on what's expected of you in the online environment, because it really is much more involved, or it has the potential to be. And the same goes for the instruction of the facilitator, the teacher in the class. It's still very involved in what's expected of us, probably more so than what's expected in a face-to-face class. Okay, so where are we headed this week? Let's talk about that. Or I guess this unit. You've already been in there. You're reading Anderson and Vandehe, chapters 2 and 3. I'll talk about that. You're looking at Liptak, chapters 3 and 9. And for many of you, you may want to start your vocation and calling reading, right? So picking the book from your optional reading list. And again, if you have a book that you think relates to vocation and calling, and you'd like to read that one instead, I am open to that reality, but you have to send it to me, and I need to approve it, okay? So I have read many of these books in the vocation and calling space, but I want to make sure that it's actually something that is related to this space and not just a book that you want to read because it's a fun book, right? And if I haven't read it, I've probably heard of it, and so I'm more than willing to at least entertain the idea of you using a different book that's not on the list. Okay, so in addition to all of those readings, those chapters, we'll have Unit 2 forum discussion. There's some great questions in there. There's an assessment that you'll take. It's a free assessment. And then I'm actually going to send you, probably this weekend, I'll include the link in there to where you would, once you've completed the assessment, where you can input your results to find out what sort of jobs it may lead you to want to be thinking about based upon the interests that you have, right? And so I'll talk more about that later on, but one of the things that you'll find is the jobs that it says based on your interests you might want to pursue, they may not correlate one-to-one with your education, but the interests will still be there. The job titles may seem like things that are beneath what you are trying to be educated to do. But what I want to encourage you to do, and I'll explain this more when I actually upload the link, is I want you to click on the hyperlinks and see all of the layers that are included in the different job opportunities connected to your interests. And that will make a lot more sense when you've actually completed the assessment and then you see the website, okay? But I just want to give you kind of, so you're thinking about this potential opportunity that may be beneficial for you, but probably is more than likely how you, something that you could use with clients if you were working with them in the future. Okay, and then we've got those that assessment to complete. We're going to look at the career diamond really quickly. The career diamond is something that, from what I've found in my research, is very unique to Anderson and Vandehe. So kind of keep that in mind, that it's not something you'll find a lot of literature on elsewhere. We'll look at Holland's person-environment fit, work adjustment theory, treatment plans and career counseling, and conceptualizing matching theories. So lots of big words, lots of important content, lots of really beneficial, helpful, and I would even argue fun things to consider as we get into this unit. So I hope you're enjoying the reading. Hope this has been beneficial to you personally, and you're also able to see how you can use this within your professional work, both now and in the future. Of course, if you have any questions or concerns, please email me or write within Canvas. I'm on there on a regular basis checking your messages. I look forward to getting into responding more and being much more involved in the class with you, so that you know that I'm not just some absent professor, but there's actually purpose and intention behind why I was a little bit silent, and now you'll see me be more engaged. So you're doing great so far. Keep up the good work. If I can be of help in any way, just know that my desire is to be here as a huge support to you in your studies. And if you have questions, even unrelated to the class, but related to career development, I'm happy to discuss those things with you as well. Have a great weekend, and we will see you online.